Okay, thank you for having me. My name is, again, Binh Nguyen. One of the reasons why I actually originally chose Thailand was because my parents were boat people and they traveled to Thailand as one of the pit stops before going to the U.S. And it happened to be one of my choices, and I guess it's part of God's providence that I returned to Thailand, my birthplace. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Thailand now. The overview is I'm going to talk about a general overview of the country, the food, the language, and the basic stuff, the tourist stuff. And then after that, I'll go into the ministry and the other questions that you have towards the end. So, okay. So this is the flag of the Thailand flag back in 1917, and before they added the other other colors and stuff, this was the original color, red and white. But after the World War I happened, they put it in blue to kind of honor their alliance with the people who fought in the war with them, like France and U.S. and such. So the official name is the Kingdom of Thailand, and their system of government is monarchy, and the official language is Thai. A lot of people get mixed up. They say, "Oh, what do Thailand people speak? Taiwanese?" Actually, no. It's Taiwanese is part of China, but the official language is Thai, and they have 77 provinces. And the capital is Bangkok. And the flag here was designed by King Rama VI in September 28, 1917. And they have 5 horizontal stripes consisting of red, white, and blue. So the blue represents the, again, national color and the Thai monarchy, honoring the World War I allies. And the red represents blood, and white for purity and Buddhism. During my time there, I was able to live through Rama IX's reign. He was known as like one of the best kings who brought up the infrastructure of Thailand. And then, of course, in 2016, the king, he had gotten sick and he had died. So his son is now the king. He was taken over. In terms of the population, as of 2017, there's 68 million people, and the religion consists of 63.4 million, or close to 95% Buddhism, and then the rest are Christian, Muslims, and also other indigenous religions. Some things that you need to know about Thailand and the culture taboos is it's very similar to Vietnamese culture and Southeast countries, like clasping of hands together, but also bowing when you say hello. And when you invite somebody to dinner, you're the one who pays the bill. And going in or out of the house, you pretty much take off your shoes. So, and some things you don't ever want to do is point with your hands or feet, or go anywhere like you're the boss. It's kind of this Western thing where you put your hands on your hips and you talk and kind of show dominance. Those are things that you don't want to do. And the number one thing you never ever want to do is insult the king. Actually, if I wanted to extend my OTP experience, I could have done that, and then I could have been put in jail, and you probably wouldn't see me here. And then there's 3 typical seasons in Thailand. There's the hot season, dry season, and rainy season. But there's this joke in Thailand. We always say there's 3 seasons. It's like hot, hotter, and hottest. There's always throughout the year it's hot, and pretty much have summer all year long. And this is here is the currency. 25, 50, 100, 500, and 1,000. Typically, $1 US gives you about 30 baht. And here's the typical foods that you can experience. This is one way to reach into the country, is starting with the food. This is papaya salad, and this is rice with some pork, and then noodles. And yeah, a lot of the food is actually a mixture of different countries, neighboring countries. They actually combine and have something new. It's mostly from like mixtures of China and Vietnam. As you see here, this is like Vietnamese here, fusion, and this is from more China and stuff. And these is typically what we kind of eat every day, is like fish and rice, you know. There's of course, this here is bugs, but this is typically for the tourists only. The locals never hardly eat this, but we do have hot pot and dessert, which is sticky rice with papaya or mango. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to dive into the nitty-gritty stuff for my OTP. The first 6 months that I was there, I had to stay in Bangkok. And so during my time in Bangkok, I had to learn Thai. And first, some are from Korea, from China, some from America, and a bunch from Europe as well. And typically, on an average day, I would usually take the train to get to the school. I lived like 3 stops away, so it was like not too long of a commute. And this is typically what the book looks like. I took a snap photo for you. It's like very phonetic at first, the first 3 months. And we had to read it out and pretty much practice by rote memory. And towards the 4th month, I have to learn all these right here. Yeah. And this is a Jesuit priest that I had met in Thailand. It's an interesting story because one of my friends that were going to the same school, he's part of the Jesuits, and he told me that this particular priest, Father Alfonso, he used to work in my camp where I was born, and he had given me a bunch of stories about the men and women who experienced a lot of the hardships in life in the camp, or some who are before arriving to the camp. They had some really gruesome stories. I guess I could share you one story, is that there was one woman who had been captured by pirates, and she was put on a island for a few weeks or so, and she said that they kidnapped her and then like practically killed her family and just kept her there and enslaved her there for their personal stuff like rape and things like that. It's kind of gruesome, but yeah, that was the reality of my history and of where I came from and my parents' history. And yeah, so during my time there, my first experience of New Year's in Thailand, and these were some of my friends and some people that were out in the streets, and we were basically, the entire city is a big water fight, water balloon fight, water guns and everything. It was pretty exciting. They typically celebrate for 2-3 days. And moving along, after my time in Bangkok, I transitioned to the northeast region where our ministry site was. And this is my first Christmas there with the community. We consisted of 12, 13 people at the time. And this would be the community members. So 2 of these fellas are from Indonesia, a number of them are from America, and a few are from Vietnam, and one fella from India. So it's pretty mixed bag of folks, and typically this is how the view is during one of the seasons, the rainy seasons. Everywhere we drove or had to go, we had to fight the floods. sometimes people would come out and like spend whole days just going out and fishing, tossing their nets and catching fish, because the water's so high, the fish would just go wherever, and we'd have like dinner. This is one of the sites where Brother Damien works at. This is the orphanage for the children with HIV and AIDS. I also had worked alongside with Brother Damien, and the name is Binh Nguyen. And this is the church that the SVDs are in charge of, the Diocese of Udon. They gave us this church to take care of, and on average, we have about 50 people each week to attend Mass, which is a lot because in other areas we only have maybe 5 people come in. This is the inside of St. Michael's Archangel Church. And during my time there, I also taught English on the side with the local high school, teaching 8th grade to 12th grade. So these are some of my students. And there were other types of ministries as well. And Thailand was really flexible because it's a relatively new place. It's like 15 years old. So I was able to like do different kinds of things. For example, some of the HIV patients, I would drive them to church and back to the center. And then I would also take them to the hospital, get their medications and things like that. As well as the children, I would take them to school, as well as the hospital. And this is how I usually got around. I even got myself a driver's license, so it's still valid for another year. I always wanted to drive a motorcycle, and I got my chance. So, other kind of opportunities was that I was able to work in the rice paddies, rice fields in Thailand, and I learned how difficult it is for rice to get to my table. We had to do a lot of cutting with like traditional sickles and things like that, and working alongside with people that do this for a living every day, farmers and such. And I also was able to go to the northern regions of Thailand to teach some of the Burmese people, refugees there. Some of these guys actually are very, very devout on their religion as well as their education. Very strong in their desire to learn. Actually, the day that I taught was one of the students. It was one of the students' last day. It was this one right here. She told me that she had to return to her country via boat. First, she had to take a bus and go like 6 to 8 hours to her country, and then take a boat across the river. That would have taken a half a day, she said, and then she would have to walk by foot back to her village up onto the mountains, and that could have totaled like a couple of days. Yeah, so some of these students told me and shared their stories, and they said that their parents were murdered right in front of them, actually, by soldiers. And they wanted to seek out education in order that they can become educators in the future, or doctors and nurses, so that they can make a difference in their village because of some of the political unrest in their villages and in their areas. Also, other kinds of ministries I did was going shopping for foods and things like that for the community, and even meet certain local people in the different regions in the mountain. These are some kids that I were able to meet and get to know. Some of them don't have education, and a lot of them live in the marketplace with their parents, and they spend their times just learning the trade. Okay, so we're reaching towards kind of like the end of my slides. In terms of the Catholic faith, how we foster it, a lot of times what we do is we have church feasts. There's like a certain season where we have church feasts from like through like February all the way to like June. It's, every weekend we would come together as a large Catholic community. I believe it was like 500 people or so within that particular province, and we would go and celebrate and dance and sing and have the bishop actually come and sit. This is actually the bishop of Thailand. He's kind of just sitting and hanging out. He does this every week for like 2-3 months on end. So he's like, yeah, I got this. He's pretty good. He's got down the art of sitting. So yeah, yep. From young to old, they all participate. They all dance. So yeah, I think this is it. Yeah. Any questions? You guys have any questions? I do better with like kind of question and answer. You know. So yes, you in the red.
How long it take for you to study the language again?
Yes, it took me about 6 months to get down the conversational language. So I was able to go around and speak with locals and everyone.
Oh, and you haven't been there like. How long you have been there again? 2 years or?
Yes, in total I was there for 2 years, back in 2015 until the summer of 2017.
Just curious enough, like what kind of advice would you give to anyone who is interested in Asian countries? Would you recommend Thailand?
I would, yes. I think I would recommend Thailand because it's a very up and coming and new ministry and new location. I think that anyone who wants to, first of all, any one of the people here actually who has a drive and a vision in terms of what they want to do, the SPD community there actually would love to have you, and they kind of foster that and nurture that independence and you know, the personal drive to be open to any kind of ministry, because it's very broad, very open right now. We have a lot of potential ministry sites, but we just don't have the numbers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes.
So what was the most difficult thing that you have to encounter?
Well, I think it's the spicy foods. To be honest, yeah, no, all jokes aside, I mean, I think it was time away from what was familiar, what was kind of what I was used to in the U.S., commodity and, you know, kind of the easiness of doing certain things and getting around. But over there I learned to, I guess, take my BMW around. What I mean is my bike, you know, my motorcycle, or the bus even, and my feet walking. I think that was like one of the things that I had trouble with. And in terms of ministry, I think death and dying in general was part of the difficulty too, but luckily I had some training in nursing before, so it kind of helped me kind of get over that stage, you know, kind of being afraid of seeing death and dying and illness and things like that. Any other questions?
My question is that what is the most valuable lesson you have learned through your ministry over there?
To be patient. I think it's something that we all need. It's a quality that we need to foster. I think oftentimes we think that we have goals set and we want to accomplish it within a certain amount of time, especially with language learning. It took many of the Vietnamese people 3 to 4 months to learn, but because I was like half and half, Vietnamese and American, a lot of times my brain would like switch over, and so I had to be really patient with myself in order to accept my weaknesses and my limitations in order to learn the language and then to be able to speak out and be brave enough to kind of mess up and get laughed at a lot. So I think that's something that we need to like foster and learn. Be patient and laugh at our own self. Yeah. I think some of you guys will resonate because English is second language, third maybe. So learn to laugh at yourself. Anyone else? Yeah.
As you spent 6 months studying the language and then eventually moved to the northern part of the country.
Yeah.
What was were there any challenges with immersing into the culture or any cultural differences, and if so, what were they?
Yes, I would say there were certain advantages of being Vietnamese in upbringing, but I had a lot of difficulties with some of the challenges were about clericalism. It's a part of the, I guess, the culture that's ingrained, and what usually happens is that you have a hierarchy of things, and usually if it's the priest, and then you have seminarians and brothers and stuff, and so you kind of had to struggle. It wasn't very much what we were trained to do, or we were fostered to have dialogue, communication, but oftentimes I had found it difficult to just bite my tongue and kind of not say anything and just go with it, with certain orders and things. Did you want to?
So could you be able to speak fluently and listen to the conversation after 6 months?
I would say no. I would not be confident to say that I'm a natural at speaking Thai. I still sometimes translate, but usually I would use my Vietnamese to translate to Thai because it's closer, because it's a tonal language. The Vietnamese has like, 6 tones? Is it? I believe 6? Well, Thai has 5 tones, whereas Chinese has 4 tones. So that's why a lot of the Chinese and the Vietnamese people, they learn it very quickly. Yeah, and for me, when I was learning it, the tones was no problem, but the grammar was an issue for me. Because I was thinking grammar, straight English, but it's not like that at all. I really enjoyed it. I was able to, they say if you could make a joke in another language, then you're pretty pro at it. I guess I almost reached that pinnacle. But I think they were laughing at me more than they were laughing at the jokes. Okay.
Ben,
Yes.
you have 4 slides of food
Yes.
and 2 slides of language studies.
Yes.
So, are you more fluent in speaking Thai or in eating Thai?
You got me. Well, let's just say I'm professional at eating spicy foods now, Yeah, definitely can handle spicy foods. Yeah, but I can definitely read Thai. My reading is much better, and then after that it would be my speaking, and then my writing would be the weakest.
What camp were you in Thai?
Uh,
What camp were you in?
I was born in the Kanatiko.
What would you say is the relationship between Buddhist and other religions there? I mean, with the SVDs working there, what is the relationship there?
Well, they really don't. It's kind of like a fresh idea. It's very new for them, a new concept. I think because a lot of the folks there think that Catholicism, Christianity is like Buddhist monks. They think that their idea of a priest or brother is that you kind of have to live a simple life, simply, like no cars, and you're like in kind of a prayerful lifestyle, like monastery almost. But nowadays, because of SVD presence as well as other Christian groups, they understand that there's some differences, because they felt at first very scandalous that you have these priests and brothers coming in they live in big houses and they have cars and motorcycles and things like that. So we had to kind of inform them, and educate them in terms of what our mission was about and what Catholicism is. But in terms of like working together and being kind of together in one community, they respect us and we also respect them, and we have a lot of like interreligious dialogue. And not only that, but I think I had a lot of Jesus encounters at the Buddhist temples oftentimes when I went to visit, and they were very open and welcoming, and I could definitely see that there's a potential bond in terms of working together and living amongst each other.
How do you think your time at Divine Word College or Divine Word Theology prepared you?
Huh? That's a tough question. Well, I definitely think that the community aspect was important. While I was here, it fostered community life as well as the technical skills and the knowledge that the school imparted. Especially with, I think the biggest component for me was being able to be taught some theological background, for missions, but at the same time, I think the community aspect helped me a lot, because that's what's important, and that's what I think the SVD's charism is about, the whole community life. That's what kind of helps foster your vocation and then strengthens you out in missions. And so I think that's what I kind of took from this community, and not just the education, because education will always continue. I think it's a long, arduous process, but the people and the memories we created, we want to recreate it when we're in mission. We want to kind of keep that alive in us. So that's what I took when I was in Thailand. The times that I had here, as well as the time that I had in Chicago, and nurture and foster a community, and be very open, inviting to all who were in the area, and it was very inclusive. It wasn't just like SVDs only, but it was also like the lay people outside, the people at the church, and then Buddhists as well. So I think that's kind of something I took away when I was here. Just a long way of answering it.